Hello everyone, are you ready for another Tabletop Odyssey? Today the guns of Basse are going to turn towards the hive mind of Nexus as her tendrils spread too far into his territory. This game is a conflict of standard deployment with Stuff the Ballots as the strategy. The scheme pool consists of In Your Face, Hold Up Their Forces, Ensnare, Deathbeds, and Deliver a Message. My crew consisted of Cornelius Basse II, Badlands Sheriff, with a lead-lined coat, Bernadette Basse, 2 Rough Riders, a Gatling Gunner, and 3 Hex Bows. I felt Hex Bows were superior to Basse's usual repertoire when it comes to needing range damage, and 4 stones to spare to use in game is going to really help me put a lot of pressure on them early. I'm taking Hold Up Their Forces and Deliver a Message here. My opponent brought Nexus One of Many, 2 Shambling Nests with treasure maps, Cavatica, Kainhearse, Ahool, 2 Spelleaters, and took 5 stones to spare. They were expecting more traps here, and this list would have coped a lot better had there been there, but they were unlucky as I went a different route. And as Hex Bows do really well into redirect magic, as they can still get a suit once per activation, I felt pretty comfortable here. Being unable to score Hold Up Your Forces for my opponent, as my models are all equal to or cheaper, bar Basse themselves, and In Your Face is only worth 1 point, as I only have models of cost 7 or less, picking schemes was quite a difficult choice here, and so they've decided to go for Deliver a Message and Ensnare. I also couldn't score 2 on In Your Face either, so with limited choices, it didn't look like there was going to be a lot of scoring on schemes here. Neither of our crews were particularly moulded to it. As we make our way into turn 1, they win initiative and I pass straight away, forcing Cavatica to mist up the Ahool and Spelleater, although most of my list doesn't particularly care too much about concealment. Bernadette then walks up and signals for a bowman to join her before dropping a cloud to protect them both. The dancing next kid moves, wills the bat to move up, and then focuses. My brown rider rides up the other bowman on the left, takes a walk, and then takes a pot shot at Ahool, but to no avail. The moose nest then charges into Bernie, but does not, creating a little bit of a problem of engagement, however, for me to deal with. The Spellboy then runs up and last drops onto the nest, throwing a ping out into Bernie and giving her a parasite. The grey-haired bowman is then going to interact to help me for heat of battle, and then shoots the nest, getting the trigger to allow the low-down bow to shoot as well, killing the nest. He then heat of battles to take a pot shot at the Spellboy. The bowing kid then takes the Nexus back to move forward, and then follows behind and focuses, setting up Ahool for slaughtering me later. My brown-haired bowman then runs and guns at the bat with his trial shot, doing 4 damage. Solid work. The bat then moves up and charges the brown rider, does 3 damage, healing off some of the barrage from earlier, and recoils in horror as the down bow then takes a barrage at the bat himself, pinging him for 2 more and 2 burning, which will become mightily relevant later. The spell girl then hops around a pillar and shoots the brown bow, but fails as I pass once more. Kainhearse then moves up into position and dubiously drops a trap near himself, and I question whether it's worth getting Bernadette to bring him into it. Basse then walks twice and shoots the Spelleater but misses, and Next Boy sneaks around the back, charging the White Rider who had moved to take the far voting station. The dog nest then pursues the Brown Rider, and accidentally makes it a little bit more difficult for Kainhearse to shoot him next turn by causing friendly fire that he wouldn't have had from Ahool. At the end of turn 1, I'm scared of the big bad, but I am sitting rather comfortably here. My range damage is clearly proving to be a difficulty for my opponent to deal with. Turn 2 comes around, and they cheat to go first with Kainhearse, moving and shooting the Brown Rider, using Predatory Instinct here to get through the friendly fire, and then they get the trigger for Ahool to attack too, but luckily I managed to stop it. The Grey Bow then takes aim and knocks the bat down to hard to kill, where burning will hopefully finish them off, unless they manage to heal, but they do go and murder the Brown Rider immediately after, healing them back up. My White Rider then interacts first with the next boy, who said hi last turn, and then delivered a message to them, before riding away and claiming a vote on a ballot box. Spell Girl is going to respond by tagging Basse in combat, and then last dropping to ping him for damage. Brown Bowman then shoots the Spell Boy for a hefty amount, knocking them down to 2 health remaining, before discarding the Black Joker to Heat of Battle. Unfortunately, I fail to finish them off, and the recoil from Redirect Magic sees me be burned. The Spellboy is then going to shoot back at the Bowman, healing for 1, and doing 2 back to me, while my Gatling Gunner is going to do not at all much, but by missing they're able to allow my Bowman to move out of combat. Cavatica is then going to respond by twisting some mist to heal up Spellboy, before Basse can then throw some shackles on the Spell Girl, pulling out the Red Joker to completely decimate her. He's then going to interact with the central ballot to score me on that point. Next boy is going to walk and vote a couple of times, negating my votes on the right hand side, before attacking the White Rider again, but they managed to fail this time. Lobo is then going to knock the bat back down to hard to kill, and then run and gun to clip Kainhearse for 2 damage and 2 burning. The Bowing Kid is then going to will Ahool to vote, but my wanted post is prevented, before skulking away in protest. I then pass my turn as the next charges forwards and engages Bernadette, who decides they're just going to walk up and stab it a little bit in order to heal up to full again. The Dancing Kid then double walks, and instead of willing the bat to vote, like previously planned, decides to use the Red Joker here to charge Kain and get the bat to heal themselves on their friend. They decided in this instance that they were going to charge the friend, because should they try to charge one of my own guys, the covering fire from the Gatling Gunner would have finished them off, so it wasn't a valid option they could take. In this instance, I'm then able to lead with 2-0, a point on Ballots and a point on Deliver a Message. Going into turn 3 with a commanding position, my opponent really needed to make some moves. But I'm going to lead with the Lobo, grab a fistful of arrows and shoot Kainhearse, smacking them for 2 damage and then blasting onto Ahool, managing to kill them, before following up with another shot that manages to end the life of Kainhearse too. Tough break for Nexus. The Spellboy is then going to come into combat with Basse, and spills to the last drop to carry over some damage and tie him up, while the White Rider is then going to scoot away to the opposing home ballot to vote. The Bowing Kid is then going to walk forward and command the Spell Girl to deliver a message to Basse before siphoning the Brown Bowman. My Gatling gun goes a little early here, missing his shots so that the Hex Bow can escape the engagement of the nest, but they just eat the scheme with the nest and then charge back into the Grey Bowman again with it. So I probably should have waited there. His Swarm of Mites is then going to chip away at 3 models that they managed to catch with an engagement range. Bernie is then going to come and attempt to stab the nest, but unfortunately fails. The boy kid is then going to take away my votes on that side completely, before draining my life from the brown bowman and summoning an eyes and ears from the corpse. Basse doesn't really take too kindly to this, however, and he decides to shackle the spell guy to 1 HP, thinking he can finish them off and the eyes and ears with a tornado. He does manage to escape engagement using this and finishes off the eyes and ears. Fortunately, the spell guy is able to dodge the tornado and survives. Cavatica then calls out the Lobo, getting in the trigger for elite maneuvers, so that the bowing kid can then delete the Nobo too. Greybow then takes a fist of arrows to reposition away from the nest and pincushions the spellboy to death. The dancing kid then double walks and commands the bowing girl to vote, so I can't score this turn. They take a point for deliver a message and ballots, so it's all square going into turn 4. 2-2. Feeling a lot less confident now, I try to clear out the annoying nest, tying up my models with Bernadette, who manages to take it down to 1 health, unfortunately. Bowing Girl then moves in to drain Basse's life and gives him a parasite, willing down Cavatica to drop a scheme down. Basse does not like where this is going and restores order to the Badlands, clearing out the scheme, but a canny use of forced reaction nullifies Basse's attacks completely. Next Boy then takes the opportunity to run up and tells the nest to walk. Unfortunately, the Black Joker, giving my Gatling Gunner the perfect opportunity. They're going to edge round the corner stealthily and then charge both the nest and Next Boy, stabbing the nest to death with its knife and making it easier for me to score. Hold up their force. Cavatica creeps forwards and then votes on the middle ballot, taking control of it, while Greybow disengages, moves, and then grabs a handful of arrows to reposition as far away as they can, so I can try and retake the far ballot next turn. Dancing Kid then walks twice and votes on the objective near me, and the White Rider has to make a mad dash to the centre, tagging Bowing Girl for me to take hold up their forces. They are able to score a point of ballots, however, so the score is 3-3 going into the final gambit. It's all to play for here, and Nexus is going to go first with the Next Boy, draining my White Rider for 4 damage, who looks a little bit spooked before making the Bowing Girl interact a scheme near Basse, aiming to get the second point and deliver a message. My White Rider does not like any of this and grabs Basse and rides away from the scheme before dashing back to vote in the middle, giving them something to work for. Bowing Girl then flurries at the Gatling Gunner, but manages to pitch a low ball on all 3, so he lives. The Greybow then fists of arrows and luckily grabs a mask to jump to the ballot box and vote twice, to not only nullify them, but to claim it for my own. Dancing Girl is then going to take the opportunity to vote a few times to secure the ballot in my deployment zone, but neglects to see my play of moving Bernadette, now they've gone, to engage them for hold up their forces. They then pass the activation, so my Gatling Gunner is going to go next, walk twice and engage both of the remaining Next kids, knowing that he can't leave with both of them when only Cavatica is left to go. Cavatica then decides to have a vote and reclaim the centre, calls out my Gatling Gunner, hoping to elite manoeuvre a kill, but unfortunately my Red Joker is able to stop them in their tracks. And really, that's the game, as Basse is going to twist a tornado for some extra mobility, take the middle point back from them, and dodges deliver a message by a smidgen. I'm going to take points here from hold up their forces and stuff the ballots, while my opponent scores 0. leaving the game to end 5-3 in favour of Basse. A fantastic game. Credit to my opponent for making it tight despite the perceived disadvantages, and thank you to Imps Gaming and Lincoln for continuing to host such wonderful games for us. Lessons learned. For me, it was good to see some guns putting in work. The hidden run aspect of Basse may actually be where their strength lies, despite all of my efforts to make traps actually work. The mobility of Rough Riders once again show how good they are in clutching points out, as long as you can evade damage from opponents, and I really had a lot of fun this game. My opponent realised Nexus 2 was a hard battle, but knew that Nexus 1 would have an absolutely terrible time against traps, so opted for a more mobile build here that worked better on Ballots. It was good to see a diverse idea here, and I hope that they can find ways to refine it more in the future. Thank you all for watching, and please, if you have made it this far, like and subscribe for more content. It really helps me out, and I would love to hear what you want to see next on the channel. This has been Tabletop Odyssey, digging trenches since 2024.